Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Parasite, starring Kang Ho Song, Sun Kyun Lee, Yo Jung Cho, Woo Shik Choi, So Dam Park, that's his name, believe it or not with an N, Jung Yoon Lee, and Hae Jin Chang, forgive me if I said those names wrong, and directed by Bong Joon Ho. Now, I have never seen this in theaters, but because I'm not a big fan of those foreign language films where I have to look at the subtitles and up at the screen, it's just too distracting to me. But what do I think of this movie? There will be some movies I'll talk about that I've reviewed before that requires that, and I'll talk about it in the show. Let's get into it. Ki Woo Kim, played by Choi Woo Shik, is a young man living in poverty in the slums of a nameless South Korea city with his family. Father Kai Taek Kim, forgive me if I said that wrong, played by Song Kang Ho, and Mother Chung Soo Kim, played by Jang Hae Jin, and Sister Ki Jung, played by Park So Dam. That's the person that I think people might get the wrong idea on. The family lives in a garden unit where they struggle finding a Wi-Fi signal to sneak into in order to get access to the internet, to watch TV, and get fumigated on, and have to watch men urinating in the alley outside their home. They make ends meet by doing menial tasks such as folding pizza boxes, and even then get criticized by the pizza employees for messing up the boxes. And this is so far working for me for a movie I'm not expecting much from, but let's just keep going. Ki Woo's wealthy friend Min Hyuk pays the family a visit, giving them a gift of rock that is supposed to bring those who have it wealth and prosperity. He then tells Ki Woo that he has been tutoring the teenage daughter of a very wealthy family, by the way. And I'm liking this setup as well as the characters. And these actors do a great job with the roles. He is leaving to study abroad, but is in love with the daughter and knows that any of the other university boys would steal her away. He wants Kiwo, I don't know if I said that wrong, to be her tutor, knowing he will watch over her so that Min Hyuk can propose to her once she graduates high school, which is just so fucking creepy. Ki Woo knows that he isn't qualified since he isn't in college, but Min Hyuk promises to vouch for him, and so he agrees and has Ki Jung forge credentials for him to take to his interview. And this is so far the best foreign film I've ever seen, and I've reviewed a couple of those. For example, and just so everyone's aware, the second movie I brought up was The Devil's Backbone, that Guillermo del Toro movie when I did his filmography. But they can't top this movie. But what I had trouble with in those movies, plus this included, is the subtitles, as I brought up before. When they talk so fast, I can't keep up with it, and it distracts me from the movie itself. Ki Woo interviews at the very wealthy Park family, where he meets Mr. Park, played by Lee Sun-kyun, his scattered brain wife, Mrs. Park, played by Cha Yo-jung, and their children, teenage daughter Dahai, and young son Da-song. Kai Woo realizes he needs to flirt with Dahai to get the job, and he does, which is weird. Mrs. Park pays him an exorbitant amount of money and mentions they need an art tutor for Da-song. Da-song has a traumatic incident where he saw a ghost in the house and had a seizure, and has been needing help with his art. And when he sees the flashback of Da-song seeing the ghost is a fucking scary scene, in my opinion, because you can imagine in your mind and what it looks like, and that to me is amazing. Great job. Kai Woo introduces them to Ki Jung, who forgets documents for herself and goes by Jessica. And she too begins making money hand over fist, and that was a bit dysfunctional, as the family and their likable for you feel sorry for them when the movie starts to when it ends. When the park's limo driver takes her home, Kai Jung leaves her underwear in the car in order to get him fired. She then struggles her uncle as the new driver, who is a really Kai Taek. The last position is that of the housekeeper, Moon Kwang, played by Lee Jung Yoon. She has worked for the home since before the Park family ever lived there. She worked for the previous owner, for example. An eccentric architect. In order to get her fired, the Kims, exploit her allergies to peaches, causing her to have allergic reactions. They then convince Mrs. Park that she is seriously contagiously ill and cannot be around their son, which is a horrible thing to do because she's been in that house for so long. And I like how seriously evil they are to get rid of the limo driver and the housekeeper. She leaves devastated, and Mrs. Kim is given the job, fooling the Park family into hiring the entire Kim family, and that to me is just fucking evil. The Kim family enjoys their huge increase in income when the Park family decides to leave to go camping for Desong's birthday weekend. They take the opportunity to stay in the huge park house for the weekend. They spent the evening drinking and eating and making a mess of the place. When the doorbell rings, it's Moon Kwang, and here's when the movie gets scary. She claims she was fired so quickly she left without being able to get something and just wants it back. Mrs. Kim reluctantly lets her in, and Moon Kwang runs into the basement and begins screaming, opening a secret passage behind some shelves. And here comes the freakiest thing in the movie. She goes to her husband, Jun Se, or Kyun Se, whatever the fuck his name is, played by Park Myung Hoon, who has seriously been living in the bunker, ever since the previous owner moved out in order to hide from loan sharks. She gives him food while Mrs. Kim looks on in horror, and I would be, because that's just fucking creepy. She tells Moon Kwang she needs to leave, and as Moon Kwang begs for her to let them stay, the rest of the Kim family, who had been eavesdropping, falls off the stairs and into view, and they call each other dad, etc., which Moon Kwang films on her phone, realizing the con the family has pulled, which is evil, by the way. She threatens to send the Kims and uses that so she and her husband can force the Kim family to do their bidding, and all this is working as a fucking horror film nominated for the Oscars. This is the first horror film that's ever been nominated for an Academy Award, from all I know, other than Silence of the Lambs. Since. The Kim family manages to get the upper hand on them, getting them into the secret bunker, but the Park family calls they've canceled their camping trip due to the rain and will be home in 8 minutes, and I thought, oh shit, they're fucked. And I love the fact that this movie has suspense with pins and needles right off the bat. The Kims scramble, trying to clean up as much mess as they can, keeping the other two in the basement. They manage to do a good enough job that the rest of the family is able to hide while Mrs. Kim gives the Parks their dinner when Moon Kwang breaks out and runs upstairs. Mrs. Kim shoves her back down the stairs, where she hits her head and is severely wounded. Moon Kwang and Jun Se, so it's the G I see, are locked in the bunker, and I thought, what a scary situation. Mr. and Mrs. Park end up sleeping in the living room in order to keep an eye on Desong, who is camping out in the backyard, forcing the Kims to stay under the table, frozen all night, even as the Parks complain about Mr. Kim's smell. And I thought he was going to get caught, but he doesn't, and then later have sex for reasons I can't quite fully understand. Eventually, in the dead of In the dead of the night, they are able to sneak out. They return home to find their apartment completely flooded with rain and sewage. Kaiwo takes the rock, and what the fuck is the point of that? And the family sleeps in a shelter for the night, and things start to get complicated for the Kims in this part in the movie. The next day, Mrs. Park decides to throw an impromptu party for Desong. The Kim family, in their roles as help, are invited to pretend that they don't know that there are two people locked in a bunker under the house. Kai Wu takes the rock down into the bunker, which is a bad idea for reasons, but because he'll get killed, where Moon Kwang has died and disambushed by Jun Se, who bludgeons him in the head with the rock. He then enters the house party, or he enters the party where he stabs Kai Jung in the chest. The party explodes into horror, and Desong has a seizure, Jun Se, with the ghost he has seen in the house prior. Mrs. Park screams at his driver, Mr. Kim, who is trying to stop Kai Jung's bleeding, for the car keys to hiss on to the hospital, and he throws them to him. This is where the movie starts to get really depressing. Here we go. They land under Jun Se, who is fighting for Mrs. Kim, or with Mrs. Kim. She manages to kill him by stabbing him with a meat skewer. And this movie is turning out to be the best foreign language film, even better than The Devil's Backbone and Roma. Mr. Park gets the keys, but expresses disgust at Jun Se's smell. This triggers Mr. Kim, who stabs Mr. Park, killing him. Mrs. Park faints as Mr. Kim flees, which is kind of funny in an odd kind of way. Kind of like Django funny, I'll say, when the lady falls down. Let's move on. Kai Wu wakes up in the hospital where he had been in a coma for weeks. He finds out that Kai Jung has died, and he and Mrs. Kim, sentenced to probation. There has been no sign of Mr. Kim, even though the police have been searching for him. Mr. Park's murder, and far and wide, Kai Wu leaves the rock in a river and observes the former Park house where he sees the lights flickering. Kai Wu translates the flickering from Morse code and learns Mr. Kim is controlling them from inside the bunker, where he is now living, sneaking upstairs for food from the new owners. Kai Wu writes of his father a letter back resolving that someday he will become rich enough that he can buy the house and their family can be reunited. What a heartbreaker of an ending. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.5 out of 10. This is perhaps my favorite foreign language film I've seen on or reviewed ever. I like the characters, and there were times the movie got freaky versus depressing, and the ending is a heartbreaker. I'll vote for this for best foreign language film of the year, I must say. Not best picture, but best foreign language film of the year. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Jojo Rabbit. And until next time, and the Oscar goes to...